Good afternoon, I'm Milton Walker with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. Another attorney in the Vibes Cartel appeal this morning urged the Court of Appeal judges to quash the conviction of Cartel and his co-accused. Cartel's attorney, Valerenita Robertson, said the judges should not order retrial in this matter. She told the court that there are several issues in the case that prevented her client from getting a fair trial. She pointed to issues such as prosecutorial misconduct, adverse publicity by the police, jury contamination, the judge's failure to carry out his judicial functions, among other things. Ms. Robertson says all these issues point to the cumulative effect of an unfair trial. Cartel, along with Sean Campbell, Andre St. John and Kahira Jones, were convicted of murder in 2014. A federal judge in North Dakota, the United States, has ordered that cash and jewelry seized from a Jamaican man who was the mastermind of a large lottery scam in the United States be liquidated and proceeds paid to victims. The property was seized from Laverick Willocks when he was arrested in Jamaica in November 2016. The property includes the equivalent of nearly $12,000 and jewelry of unknown worth. Authorities say at least 90, mostly elderly Americans, lost more than $5.7 million to the scam operated out of a mansion in Kingston where Willocks lived with his mother. Court documents list victims in North Dakota, South Dakota, South Carolina, and Texas, with scam-related activity also reported in New York, New Hampshire, California, and Florida. Willocks pleaded guilty to a conspiracy in a deal with prosecutors and awaits sentencing. He faces up to 40 years in prison, although prosecutors will recommend about 10 years because he cooperated with them. The Ministry of Justice is reporting success in its efforts to reduce the number of human trafficking cases island-wide. In a press briefing currently underway at its offices, it was revealed that over a 5-year period, 82 victims have been rescued. Justice Ministry officials noted that 3 prostitution rings have been dismantled while 30 suspected traffickers have been arrested. The Justice Ministry also pointed out that so far 5 convictions have been secured against individuals involved in the trafficking of persons, with 18 cases still before the court. However, since the start of this year, 5 alleged traffickers have been charged and 1 has been convicted. The convicted trafficker has been identified as Ocean Morgan. She will be sentenced later this year. The Clarendon police are awaiting a post-mortem to determine the cause of death of an elderly man whose decomposing body was found in bushes early yesterday morning. The dead man has been identified as 82-year-old Adolfo Swack of Lioneltown. Mr. Swack was last seen at a football field close to his house before he disappeared on June 1. A search was launched by family members and the police, but that was unsuccessful. The decomposing body was discovered by a cattle farmer in an area known as Moorlands. A major investigation is now underway following a physical altercation between sellers at the Vendors Arcade in Clarendon and the Metropolitan Police Saturday afternoon. Jeline Pearson has the details.
The video footage shows Francine Reed, a vendor who sells in the vicinity of the shopping mall in the parish, on the ground suffering from injuries she allegedly received from the Metropolitan Police last weekend. The dispute allegedly started when the vendors tried to take back the goods confiscated by the officers. 2 of the vendors say they were pepper sprayed and beaten. Francine Reed gave details on the injuries she received.
Constable in our people them building, she pepper spray me, and one eye Metropolitan, when I don't know his name, but I see if I see his face I can identify him. Use a button and lick me on my hand. My face, my eyes, them still a gravel me, and me I feel pain on my shoulder, my hand and my stomach, where the pepper spray go down my throat.
Nicola Russell, a vendor who says she was pepper sprayed during the altercation, gave details on the incident.
Normally when we see the police officers coming by, we always take our things and hide them. Our things was hidden on the private property of the mall, just behind the mall there. When the police, the Metropolitan bus drove up, they stopped by, took out phone, they were videoing us, and we stood and watched them. Well, they went around to take away our both me and Miss Francine Reed goods when I went to see if I could grab back some of my things. What we normally do. And I was pepper sprayed in my eyes, straight directly into my eyes.
Miss Reed is not only concerned about the injuries she received, but about the other items that were taken from her.
They take away my bag with my phone, my money. I sell $12,800 and none come back. They care about my purse and give it to a young man which was standing out here to give to me. No phone, no money come back in the purse until this morning.
Miss Reed said this is not the first time her goods have been confiscated for illegal vending. When TVJ News spoke with the head of operations at the Maypen Police Station, Superintendent David White, he said the matter is being investigated. Jeline Pearson, TVJ News.
Brace yourselves, that's the warning from the All Island Cane Farmers Association, as it says a price increase might be coming for sugar due to increased production costs. This comes as drought conditions are affecting farmers in parts of the island. Speaking with TVJ News this morning, Chairman of the association, Alan Ricketts, says even though cane is a crop that is able to withstand all weather conditions, the persistent dry spell will reduce the amount of sugar which can be generated from each plant. Hence the increased cost.
If your production suffers and your income falls, the cost of inputs will remain the same. So therefore, you are going to lose out in terms of production versus cost. There's very little you can do in terms of spending money. That is, you can't chuck water to water cane. And therefore, there isn't really an extra cost. You can't pay to overcome drought in terms of supplying water. But you will suffer because your other costs will remain the same and your production will fall. So the income versus expense will not be good.
But despite the drought, Mr. Ricketts noted that there is no need to import brown sugar in the short to medium term.
At this time of the year, we always make preparations for having enough sugar to go through the peak consumption period, which is November, December. And we always make sure that we have inventories of sugar to take us through that period. And in terms of our production, even a significant percentage reduction in the production of brown sugar will allow us to satisfy the local consumption needs in terms of brown sugar.
National Water Commission President Mark Barnett faced the heat from councillors at the latest St. Catherine Municipal Corporation meeting. They raised several water-related issues, from poor or no water supply in remote areas to road reinstatement after pipeline works. More from TVJ's Krista Campbell.
In the land of wood and water, the latter remains a challenge for years, and ironically more so in rural areas where natural bodies of water are often available and accessible. National Water Commission President Mark Barnett faced the music as councillor after councillor stood up to voice the challenges residents face in their divisions in St. Catherine. Top of the concerns, the issue of road reinstatement.
The more we have leaks popping up, is the more the National Water Commission comes to fix the leak, dig up the road and just leave it, and it is there, right? And leave the rubble beside it. It is now an endangerment to the people, right? To cyclists and other people that use the roadway.
The NWC president said he wants to enter a memorandum of understanding with municipal corporations, similar to what has been done with the National Works Agency, to have contractors rehabilitate the roads after the NWC completes pipelaying works. On the issue of water supply, Mr. Barnett outlined several improvement projects across St. Catherine, including a $7 billion initiative with private investors, which include drawing water from the Rio Cobre.
The construction of a 15 million imperial gallons water treatment plant at Content on the Rio Cobre, which will provide that added capacity.
He says that's expected to begin later this year and run for 18 to 24 months. And he also detailed a partnership with Rural Water Supply Limited to redevelop water systems in remote areas, beginning with the community of Ginger Ridge.
We are developing the limited source, and it ought to be understood from day one that based on what exists, it's not going to be a 24-hour water supply because of the vast area, and that is the likely or the most reliable source that could be developed.
On the issue of trucking water,
looking at doing is to identify existing trucks that we can have repair and put back into service. So that is what we're doing, and I've asked that we identify at least, in the initial stage, at least 4 trucks. So every parish can have 1 truck in the immediate term.
Krista Campbell, TVJ News.
1 year after the stabbing death of 17-year-old Renada Dixon, his parents have sought to give back to his former school. Renada was fatally stabbed by another student during an altercation at the Porus High School in Manchester. The 16-year-old student who stabbed him is doing time at a penal institution. But even though justice was served, the family is still affected by Renada's death.
It is really a hard task for the family because what happened, we have missed somebody who have loving, somebody who have caring, somebody who I have a relationship with. And even, I know, even Father they have gone, and when I realize I have no Renado to call me and say Happy Father's Day, Daddy, it have leave an impact on my heart.
I think about him every day, but I guess life goes on, and he's not the only parents being in the situation. So the memory is still there, it never changed, but we still go on.
The family is imploring students to avoid conflicts and report any altercation they see happening among students. As part of the healing process, the family recently hosted a treat and provided school supplies to children in the community.
We're giving out some books today and some flour and rice to the older folks, and the books for the younger people with in picture. And you have pen and you have pencil.
Giving out the books and so forth, and I'm hoping that things will change and more love will develop instead of the hatred what's taking place over in our community and in Jamaica.
The family also donated a trophy to his school for the top student in Renado's class for academics and discipline. Time now for a look at what's coming up in this evening's Health Report.
In the next edition of the Health Report, we look at stroke.
Being overweight is another important factor. Increase in the weight is perhaps one of the strongest links with increase in the blood pressure. 5 pound gain in weight can result in significant gain in your blood pressure, even more so than being diabetic. It certainly impacts hypertension to a great extent.
That's the Health Report this evening in Primetime News. And now for today's healthy living tip. Here are some ways to prevent getting a stroke. Keep your blood pressure low, lose weight, exercise, and quit smoking.
In news overseas, the 12 members of a youth soccer team and their coach, who spent more than 2 weeks trapped in an underground flooded cave in Thailand, have appeared in public for the first time. They were speaking during a press conference this morning. For more, we go to the CNN.
Oh yeah, one of them said, I was really worried when we first got trapped because I thought my mum will get really, really mad at me. But I think all is forgiven. The mums and dads are very, very pleased to have them out. And the first to speak was this boy Adun, who is actually ethnic Burmese tribal minority being schooled by a Christian church over here in Thailand. And he was the one, because he spoke English, had the first encounter with the British divers when they went into the cave. Here's what he said.
We heard a human voice, so we want to rush to see them so that they can see us and give us help. When they got out from the water, I was a bit surprised, so I just greeted them. I thought this really miracle.
Well, a miracle indeed, an absolutely magic moment. And the boys, as I say, are taking it in turns now to speak. We've also had the assistant coach who initially was blamed for negligence in taking the boys down there, but he turned out to be a bit of a hero because he sustained the boys in this long sojourn in the cave.
In sports, leading jockey Anthony Thomas has appealed his 5-race day ban and a $30,000 fine handed down by the Jamaica Racing Commission, the JRC, for causing intimidation and interference to several horses over the course of 2 separate race days. The details from Denise Walters.
Anthony Thomas, who sits atop the jockeys standing with 56 wins, 18 more than his nearest rival Shane Ellis, could see his lead dwindle after being slapped with a 5-day race ban. Thomas, who was aboard Disability Charm in the 10th race on Saturday, February 24, 2018, was suspended for 2 race days and fined.
Apologize for the absence of the video in that story. And that's all the time we have for Midday News. I'm Milton Walker. Join us at 7 for primetime news on behalf of the sports, news and production teams. Good afternoon.